In the vast Persian Empire, far from the land of Israel, a divine story unfolds not with miracles or parted seas, but through brave decisions, quiet obedience, and bold action. This is the story of Esther, a queen and her cousin, a genocide thwarted, a legacy of faithfulness and deliverance. Welcome to the Book of Esther, a masterpiece of God's providence written through human courage. We begin in Susa, the capital of Persia. King Xerxes, also known as Ahasuerus, is holding a 6-month feast to display his wealth and power. On the final day, drunk with pride, he commands Queen Vashti to appear before his guests to display her beauty. But she refuses. Vashti's defiance causes shock and scandal. Advisors warn that her example might embolden women across the empire. So Vashti is banished, and a search begins for a new queen. Among the Jews living in exile is a man named Mordecai, from the tribe of Benjamin. He's wise, principled, and raises his orphan cousin Hadassah, known by her Persian name, Esther. Esther is taken to the palace as part of the king's beauty search. Mordecai advises her to keep her Jewish identity hidden for now. Though she has no noble background, Esther wins favor with everyone, and eventually she is crowned Queen of Persia. But Mordecai doesn't disappear into the background. He regularly checks on Esther outside the palace gates, and soon he makes a discovery that will change everything. While at the king's gate, Mordecai overhears 2 eunuchs plotting to assassinate King Xerxes. He tells Esther, who reports it in Mordecai's name. The plot is foiled, and the event is recorded in the royal chronicles. But Mordecai receives no reward, yet. This act of loyalty will become the pivot point in a divine reversal. Enter Haman the Agagite, elevated to second in command. Haman demands all officials bow to him. But Mordecai refuses. Why? Mordecai, a Jew, likely sees Haman's lineage as tied to the ancient enemies of Israel, the Amalekites, descendants of King Agag. Haman is enraged. It's not enough to punish Mordecai. He plots the annihilation of all Jews across the empire. Haman casts lots, Purim, to decide the date. Then he deceives the king into signing a royal decree. On the 13th day of Adar, every Jew, young and old, can be slaughtered. The city of Susa is thrown into confusion. When Mordecai hears the decree, he tears his clothes and puts on sackcloth. He weeps at the palace gate, fasting, mourning, and praying. Esther, in her royal chambers, hears of Mordecai's distress and sends messengers. Mordecai sends back a challenge. Do not think that because you are in the palace you will escape. If you remain silent, deliverance will come from elsewhere, but you and your father's house will perish. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? The weight of destiny falls on Esther. She replies, "Gather all the Jews to fast for me. I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish." After 3 days of fasting, Esther approaches the throne uninvited, a risk punishable by death. The king is pleased and extends his golden scepter. But Esther doesn't rush her request. She invites the king and Haman to a banquet, then another. Behind the scenes, God's plan unfolds. That night, the king cannot sleep. Coincidence? Or divine intervention? He orders the royal records read to him and discovers Mordecai once saved his life, but was never honored. The next day, Haman enters, planning to ask for Mordecai's execution. Instead, the king asks, what should be done for the man the king wants to honor? Thinking it's about him, Haman outlines an elaborate reward. The king commanding, do that for Mordecai the Jew. Humiliated, Haman is forced to parade Mordecai through the city in royal robes. At the second banquet, the king asks again, what is your request, Queen Esther? Esther replies,
spare my life and the lives of my people.
Stunned, the king demands, who would do such a thing?
Esther points, the adversary is this wicked Haman.
The king storms out. Haman begs Esther for mercy, but when the king returns, it looks like Haman is assaulting the queen. Enraged, the king orders Haman to be hanged on the very gallows he built for Mordecai. But the original edict cannot be revoked. So Esther pleads again, and the king allows Mordecai to write a new decree. The Jews may defend themselves on the appointed day. When the day arrives, the Jews rise up, defeating their enemies. Fear of Mordecai spreads across the empire. He has now been promoted to the king's right hand. Esther and Mordecai established the festival of Purim, named after the Pur, the lot Haman cast. It becomes a yearly celebration of survival, deliverance, and God's hidden hand. Esther remains a beloved queen. Mordecai becomes second in command to King Xerxes. Together they saved a nation, not with swords, but with fasting, wisdom, and boldness. They were chosen, positioned, and willing to act. The Book of Esther ends without God's name ever being mentioned, yet his presence is felt in every twist. It reminds us that God works even in silence, that he places people in key positions for such a time as this, that both women and men, like Esther and Mordecai, are vessels of divine purpose. Are you in a position today where your voice, your courage, your influence could make a difference? Like Esther, like Mordecai, you may have been placed right where you are for such a time as this. If this story moved you, give the video a like, share with someone who needs courage today, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories brought to life. Drop a comment below. What's your biggest takeaway from the story of Esther and Mordecai? Until next time, stand firm, speak truth, walk in purpose,